Hey everyone, welcome to this week's episode of the Mental Wealth Podcast. My name is Will Fleming.
And I'm Maki Ray Maricela Thompson. Kia ora and tarofa, and welcome to another episode of Mental Wealth. And I'm super excited to introduce to you on this episode an awesome friend I've known for some time during my work in the police. Bob Lemalu, introduce yourself, Uzo.
Thank you, Ray and Will. Thank you so much. We're all privileged to be here. So my name is Bob Lemalu. I'm Samoan, or New Zealand-born Samoan, I should say. I am married to Emma. We have 5 children, and done a lot of things like Ray sort of touched on before. But at the moment, working as a real estate agent or realtor in Mangere for a brand called Ray White, and really loving this space and enjoying what I'm doing at the moment.
Nice.
What is it about that space that you love, bro? Like, I guess one of the things we'll explore in this podcast is how do we even find something that we love doing as opposed to just doing something because?
Yeah, I guess we'll always been good and enjoyed, I suppose, just creating relationships and meeting people and getting on and with others. So real estate is a big part of that. It's very important. A fundamental in real estate is to be able to create relationships and be able to work with different personalities. I think at the core of it is just being able to help others in an area that can be quite stressful and can be quite emotional. So I really enjoy, being able to take that from start to finish and, just really see the look of elation on families' faces, people's faces when they've either bought or sold successfully. Yeah.
And as a Samoan, as an Islander real estate agent, well, what does that mean? Does it have any? Is there any advantages to? Because are there too many of our people with the mortgage, with the home, or?
Good question, Ray. I think that the first part of that question, there are not a lot of Pacific real estate agents, especially we're in Auckland. We're touted as the largest Pacific island, city, I should say, in the world. But we are definitely the minority. I could probably count the number of PI agents on 2 hands, just in Auckland alone. But we definitely need more. I think that a real skill set, a natural fit for Pacific Islanders is the way we interact with others, and also how we're quite humorous and bubbly. So a lot of those natural skills, relationship skills, sort of translate across to the line of work in real estate. So definitely we need a lot more. And the other side to that, which I've discovered since I've been in the job, is that there are Pacific Islanders are amongst the least number of homeowners, and Pacific and Māori. So that's something that I sort of see, and I think to myself, I've thought to myself that I'd like to be a part of trying to turn that around in terms of trying to increase the number of Pacific homeowners as well as Māori. So if there's anything I can do to do that, then that's what I want to do.
Yeah, it's, as a new homeowner, I never thought there would be a feeling of what it is. And there's something changes, like it's a ritual where it's quite spiritual in some ways. That it's yours. And like even things like weeding or mowing the grass, it's not a drama for me. I hated all of that stuff. But it's like all of those things that they don't tell you about that. And I think maybe we just think in society that, you just need a roof over your head, but you don't. And I think there's something really interesting about, I mean, Ray, we talk about this all the time. It's a very complicated world. And how do you provide equity for everybody? And it's not so straightforward because maybe there's enough to go around for a certain amount. And I think maybe part of the way is by having someone like you, Bob, come in and share even the tools about, like, where would you encourage someone to start if they wish to own a home? Because it's like every time you look online, the cost goes up. Yeah.
I think, Will, that sometimes there's a misconception out there amongst not just our people, but people in general that it's too high a ladder to climb. But I think a good place to start is to start having the conversation with a financial specialist, it's more or less like getting a financial health check. We go to the doctors to figure out what shape we're in, our bodies are in. But so too, there's that option available for us to go and check our financial well-being, see where we are, and then find out from there what are the things I can do to get myself ready to own a home, to be able to purchase. Yeah.
I think it was good that you touched on that, because that was my follow-up about, needing more Pacific Islanders as agents. But then in the back of my mind, and from what we see, you can teach budgeting and all of that, but if you're still at the lower end of the, spectrum in terms of income, how much more can a Bob, with being Pasifika, provide in terms of enabling more of our people to be able to afford homes? But you've touched on it, having awareness and having access and getting things like health check on your financial situation. I think can help, because I know with stress, you start purchasing and buying things, impulsive decisions. You end up getting a pack of beer today, KFC today, and then you look at your transactions during the week that could have gone in towards saving up towards things like a house or other things that can help elevate our people. But no, thank you for that. Before we continue on around your professional career, who is Bob, the family man, husband, father?
Yep. Oh, yeah, it's a good question, guys. Gosh, I'm not too sure what to say. So pretty much, I think a lot of my early life was raised by a single mum, or she was a widow. So my father passed away when I was 3, so a very young age. And so there was 4 of us that mum raised, and this probably has something to do with the pathway that I'm on now in terms of real estate. Because for a long time when we were young, we struggled with finances, living in poverty for a very long time. But I didn't know it as a kid. You understand it now that you're older and have your own family. But there were a lot of things that we didn't enjoy because of certain decisions that mum made. And some were out of her control as well. But I guess having that background, growing up with very little, sort of has molded me to who I am today, I believe, because today I'm ever so grateful for everything I receive because of that background of hardship and poverty. Everything that comes my way now, I'm always very humble and privileged. I feel privileged to be able to receive. So I take that approach into a lot of what I do in my life as well, with my kids, with my family. And I believe it's because of that upbringing, whether it was, it was probably a picture of lack. But to me today, it's kind of made me, I suppose, spiritually rich, and very grateful for who I am. So yeah, that carries a lot into what I do with my family and my kids. My wife and I, we try to teach our kids to be grateful and patient and all those qualities that our parents raised us with. So been working in the corporate world for maybe close to, if I include real estate, it's probably 20 years plus. And I've always sort of dropped out of school, was a school dropout, did lots of different things. I was a professional musician for the early years because I really loved music, but unfortunately that didn't quite work out, and we had children, so I had to sort of be the breadwinner and go out there and really try and provide.
When you navigated that switch, right, you wanted to follow the ambition of music, and life's long, right? You might still loop back around to that. But were there pivotal moments, people helping you to because I guess what I'm saying is we want to chase the dream, but at some point you got to find the balance of having the money coming in. What was that transition? You kind of talk about it like you made that call, but was it did instantly I better park the music for now and go over here, or did you have some help to make that decision?
Yeah, it was more a discovery around the fact we had our first child, And I knew then I had to grow up in a hurry. And so music wasn't putting food on the table. And so I gravitated towards just different roles in call centers, office work. And from then on, I just was able to just progress in the pay scale, if you like, in different positions, picked up different skills and learnt different things. And I just found that, this is, I actually enjoy. And a lot of it was having contact with different people, again, walks of life, and just using the natural skills that we grew up with. So much so to the fact that it's almost like it's an accident, but it isn't, because I don't believe there are accidents. I believe everything's happens for a purpose. But in some ways, I just think that being in the role I am now, it just feels like it was always meant to be. Yeah.
The values that you've learnt and experienced through growing up, you've already mentioned about growing up in a household of just one. Your dad passing away. So you've also mentioned that it's shaped or influenced some of the decisions and career paths that you've taken on a professional level. So obviously there's some alignment of values towards what you do today. And this is not a paid ad for Bob, but Bob through his professional capacity has been a huge sponsor for a lot of the work that we do, around suicide prevention, mental health, and also the child sexual abuse project that we've been running in the community. So, how important is it to you as a business owner to be able to have a social sort of, philanthropic arm? Because it's awesome to see, our business owners not forgetting, where they come from, and still have the ability economically, socially, that aligns with their values to still be able to support stuff like that. Because you don't have to support that stuff. You could have just gone out, had some wine, and gone for holidays with your, with your mates, which you probably still do because you need that balance. But still being able to support stuff like that aligns with your values. Why is that important for you?
For myself personally, very important because it's for me, it's giving back. It's also acknowledging the path that we've tread, and not only us, but our forefathers, or in our cases, our parents, and just honouring the sacrifices that they made as well. Because, I mean, Ray, you sort of asked me that question, but I can easily put that back on our families, on our parents as well. My mum didn't have to stick it out with 4 little rugrats and continue to raise us the way she did. Same as our parents as well. So it's only natural for me to be able to give back and honour that. And just always staying true to the teachings that our parents gave to us. They used to say, never forget where you come from. Those sorts of sayings, different proverbs and things that, you didn't, when you're younger, in one ear, out the other. But they really come home to roost, I've found as an adult and as a father, as a husband as well. So very important to me, to answer your question, Ray, and I think that it's something I'll continue to do. It's probably something that also you always feel you can never do enough of, but you also know that you can't contribute to every single, I suppose, journey or channel or cause that's out there. But if I can do my small bit to elevate and support the very worthy causes, then I'll continue to do that. Yeah, I'll continue to do that.
I guess, something talked about a lot in society around mental health, and I don't really know what that means. I think it's a conglomerate of ideas that are working for you, and put that together and it's low stress, and low stress probably means low negative mental health. Are there tools or practices that you use in your day-to-day life that maybe can be shared? Because I'm really fearful that we talk about the headline, but no one really talks about what's the solution to these things. So when we have our Pacific people in here, I'm like, what do you do every day that makes your days add up? Do you have rituals or tool sets that you use?
I think for me, family's a big part, probably naturally for all of us. There are times when I feel stressed but don't recognize it as such. Sometimes it creeps up on you or me. And those are the times when I'll just, dive into my family time. But, make sure not to neglect, the issues or the work that's at hand. But also I work a lot with, the team environment that I'm in at the moment, guys and agents in Pacific Islanders who are just like me. So we share a lot of, we do a lot of things together. We talk a lot. We share openly among some of the issues that we face that are the same as well. So I think that having that support network really helps as well. But yeah, in terms of things that I do, I'd have to say it definitely is family, because they're the ones who sort of put things into perspective for me a lot, especially when things aren't going so well. And yeah, it can be in this role as an agent, it can be stressful. There are certain things that happen or don't happen that can cause the stress levels to increase. But it's much the same as with you guys as well, with anyone else. But that's probably what I'd like to answer with. The other thing, guys, you mentioned before about Ray, you mentioned earlier about some of the decisions we make, and Will, you mentioned about being homeowners and home ownership as well. I really believe that I was one of those people as well, just made bad financial decisions in the beginning. And I think there's a real lack at the moment of financial education amongst our people, financial well-being, and probably not enough of our people know. I was at a time well before I started real estate where we were just in the financial rut and things were just going round and round in circles for a long time. But fortunately we came to a time and a line in the sand where we made the decision to make a change. And that just encouraged us to keep on climbing that ladder more into home ownership, and making good decisions, better financial decisions, and understanding the responsibility of being homeowners, but being parents, mother and father, and wanting to leave behind a good legacy for our kids. So from my perspective in real estate, I see there's a real lack in that area of financial literacy and well-being. It's something that we hear all the time, but I think the practical steps to be able to change it is probably what's missing at the moment. It's that link to show our people, for example, just having a financial well-being check, just talking to a trusted advisor or someone to be able to tell you where you are and what you can do. Another example is that a lot of our young people who leave school now straight into the workforce, a lot of them sign up to KiwiSaver, which is a good thing. For whatever reasons, they've got to leave school and go and work for their families, but 5-6 years later, they've built up enough, of a deposit in their KiwiSaver, which they're not always aware of, which can help them to it's the gateway into their first home. And you put that together with the family incomes, then you're able to you're well on the way, you're on the path to be able to buy your first home. So I think it's those little things that probably there's not enough awareness at the moment, but perhaps it's something that we can be thrashed out more in the near future.
So I just want to stick to that part of the conversation about how to get into homes and make people more aware of some of those things and more literate around some of those things. Can you describe whether certain communities are a lot more literate in that space? Because I can only imagine, like, if I look at home ownership, you see, there's a lot of, ethnic and Asian communities that are in homes. A lot of our Palangi communities are in their homes. Do you see from your experience, are they a lot more literate around how equity works, and we've discussed this before around some of the models of how some communities operate where, our Pacific people all migrate here and they try and work together and, sort out the bills. But when I observe Asian communities, Indian communities, they all come in and they all pay the same bills towards the same mortgage, and then they leave with equity. do you kind of see that in your line of work, how they don't have as much of a problem getting the finances compared to our people?
Definitely. And when I speak to families as well, who families that I've worked with in the past who feel a sense of guilt, that they don't have the finances or they don't have the knowledge. But I say to them that, a lot of some of the Indian investors that I work with as well, these are guys who, and they're New Zealand born and bred, similar to us here. But these guys typically grow up working in their family shops or family dairies. And so they grow up even before they're at tertiary studies. They're learning, the finances, learning money handling, learning, all the little bits and pieces. And then behind the scenes, they're learning accounting from their parents and good money management, financial management, how to take that little and grow it and multiply it. And so by the time they hit tertiary level and study, and they get their degree and qualifications in that, they've already got that knowledge. It's second nature to them. And so also if they want to purchase a house, they've got the financial backing of the folks, to be able to do that. And good on them. That's you're totally happy for them. But on the other side of the coin is where our people come in and we've got none of that. We have none of that, financial money management or handling. In fact, I'd go as far as to say, and I say this because of my own family situation, is that our priorities are often wrong. But I believe now that there's a way that we can, as Pacific, still have the same priorities and treat them with respect and in that regard, but also be good managers of our money, of our finances, and of our homes as well, of our kids, and what we want to leave behind for them as well. So yes, I do see an imbalance with the other communities, and it's something that I feel quite passionate about, because I know that sometimes the answer is not always difficult. It can be as simple as making a fine change or speaking to the right people. I know, because I've seen it happen, with a lot of our families. So that's also what I want to do, keep on doing in my role as well, as just telling people this is what you need to do. This is who you need to speak with. This is what you need to prepare for.
Yeah, I had that experience where I think during the first lockdown, the owners were coming back from overseas. I was renting, and so I had like 40 days, right? And a friend told me about a mortgage broker. I had never heard that word before. And that dude guided me through the whole lot. And I often felt like, that's what I'd say to others too, it's okay to have to make the decisions, but you feel like you have no idea what's happening around you, but you're leaning on all these advocates for you who by law have to look after you. The mortgage broker, the real estate agent, and there's back and forth, and there's definitely luck involved in there and intuition, but that's kind of what I think the missing link is too. There's a person who knows exactly, even the lawyers. I called the lawyer. I said, what's the holdup? And they said, well, you have to tell us that it's okay to move forward. And I was like, oh, well, is it okay to move forward? He said, yeah. I said, then it's okay to move forward. Thank you, Will. But I didn't know that, so it felt like I was doing something wrong and waiting, and so I think that's a really interesting insight. That I don't know. I'm sure there's websites that exist for all of those, like where to start if you're a new homeowner or wish to be. But I don't know if that exists for Pacific, does it?
I think further to that is, Will teaches at MIT. He's a lecturer at MIT. So we're talking about not just your average Joe blog. These are educated people. So if we are lost, people you can only imagine what it must be like for our folks, our older folks who new to the country, just have no idea. English is a second language, so it must be stressful.
And I think that, as an agent, we always say, these are transactions you don't do every day. Whoever you are and whatever level of knowledge you have, purchasing or selling a home is not, you're not expected to be the expert. That's why we have these specialists in place. But I think, like you said, Will, sometimes the issue is that everyone's working away in their silos, and not quite coming together.
That's right.
You know, for the benefit of the client, you know. So that's where a lot of, I suppose, not just agents, but lawyers, brokers, mortgage advisors differ. There's some who will go, who go above and beyond the call to be able to help and provide that service, that level of service. And I just like to, for myself personally, I like to ensure that, you know, there's no stone unturned. There's no doubt in my clients' minds what the pathway is, what they need to do next in order to achieve the goal.
It's awesome.
So we've talked about some of the challenges, some of the tools that are available and resources that are available. We haven't talked so much about some of the successes that you've had. What are some of the highlights that you've had in your career so far as a real estate agent?
Gosh, there's a lot to. I'm trying to think back.
Which are the ones that stand out?
The ones that really stand out is when we've been able to make, you know, hundreds of thousands of dollars extra for our sellers. You know, more recently I had a 75-year-old widow, and she had a property she's got several properties actually, but this particular one needed a lot of work, and we're in a down market at the moment. So the whole idea was that the return wasn't going to be as healthy as before, as the market was last year. But long story short, we took the property to auction. It was a 4-week campaign, and we made for her $368K extra than what was expected. Now in a down market, and it was a pretty phenomenal achievement, but also just to be able to help this 75-year-old widow who only just lost her husband last year. But that just really is going to give her financial security over the coming years, you know, she'll be able to enjoy now. But yeah, it's stories like that that really do it for me when you're the little guy and you help whether they're a seller or a buyer, and you get a really good result for them, more than expected, or you purchase a home for them on better terms than they expected at a lower price. Those are the ones that really hit home for me. Yeah.
I'll give this a go, Bob. I don't know how it's all going to play out. Does the name Ulu, what does that spark when I say that name? Because I got a story here. So there's a smile, which is good. So with this whole podcast venture, you know, I've come across Ulu, and he doesn't mentor me, but he'll train me, as he says. And I said, one day I said, oh, wow, I've got to make more sales with this podcast studio. So I text Ulu and I said, hey, Ulu, I want to be your best sales agent. He said, not possible, Will, because Bob is. And he gave me the figures. And I'll show you the text. But it just clicked. That's why I was looking on my phone, because I went back a couple of months ago and your name was there. And I said, oh, well, I won't be your best sales agent, but I'll find a different best. And I thought it's really interesting because life is a little bit about sales. And I wonder if you might share some of the tools. I mean, Ulu gave me homework to do with sales, and so far it's been working, you know, and it's very simple. It's respectful. It's about solving problems for people. Could you talk a little bit about that today if people wish to even sell themselves that I'm worth it?
Yeah, absolutely. Firstly, Ulu Matotua Ayono, yes, he's a very good man with a very good heart, and I have a lot of time for Ulu. We'll talk a bit about that later, but I think that sales, as we know it, we've always thought it was, you know, traditionally and growing up, always thought it was about money, always thought it was about figures, finances and all that type of thing. But there's one thing that Ulu taught me, was that it's not. It's actually the opposite. It's actually about relationships. It's actually about being yourself as well. Probably one of the key lessons I learned from Ulu. He gave me a book back in late 2000s, and it was called The Secret to Selling. And now this was, I don't know if you've seen that book, but it's a 1960s gem. Written by a guy named Harry Brown. But when you read that book, it just really, to me, it was everything that I'd known. It just really broke things down. And it said to me that you didn't have to be this quick talker, salesperson. You didn't have to have all these cliches and all this extra training and you know, Tony Robbins and that type of thing.
Yeah.
Good on Tony Robbins and that sort of thing. But you can be a successful salesperson just being yourself.
Absolutely.
You know? Just having the right principles, the right goals, and the right drive, and the right methods as well. So in some ways, I think that, and I think we've had this conversation before as well, in that sales is something that's not taught in schools. Yeah. But I'd go a step further and just say that it's not even sales, you know, because it probably needs to be reworded. I don't know what that word would be, but it's to me, it's a lot about being myself and just using the natural skills that we've been taught, and just relating to others, dealing with others at all levels, different personalities.
And that book has 5 kind of steps.
Yep.
So it's weird because we live in a 5 steps to happiness. But when I read those or tried to make sense of them, it really made sense. Yeah, I think I even screenshotted them. Look, I hope no one's getting bored, but this is kind of what I dream for this stuff, you know. So what's it here? It's maybe I'll edit a bit of this out. You know, discover the prospect's motivation.
Yes.
So that's like connecting with people.
Yes.
You know, and like, hey, what's up? You know, it's kind of beautiful because it's simple. You know, listen to them. So that's another good tip, and summarize the motivation of what you're hearing.
Yes.
You know, I think we can all do that, and then present a product solely in terms of the motivation they describe to you.
Yes.
So, you know, it really challenged me because I'm like, I'm going out there trying to sell podcasts, but no, I'm selling whatever they need that I might be able to support with. And then be brave, answer any other questions, and be honest, and then close the sale by encouraging them to go ahead.
Yes.
So it's kind of asking you to really connect in a way that is achievable.
Yes.
And look, I'm a noob on this journey, but I like that anyone can do it.
Yes.
And I even like that you were in a text message months ago, and now I get to talk to you. And there's a kind of beautiful simplicity, but also a reminder that it can quite easily not happen. It can stay in a text message.
Yes.
And you'll never know it. So at some point you decided to chase that. And I mean, can you go back to that moment? Was it reading something like that and then you implemented it straight away in your life?
Yeah. We're talking back in 2013, 14, when me and Ray were working together when Ray was in the police. So around that time, and I'd had all the sales training up to that level, working for corporates, and you learned about things like solution selling, features and benefits, and all these flash fancy words, which it all made sense. But when I came across this, you know, it just totally blew my mind. I just thought, gosh, really? Can it be that simple? And it was stuff that came natural to me as well. And Ulu was really good at explaining it and breaking it down and then challenging us. You know, there was a question in the book that says, ask the client, what's your biggest problem? And then you just sit there and just zip and just let them go.
Yeah.
And so you'll pick up the motivation in terms of what they're trying to achieve through that. And then that's where you sit down and tailor a solution to what they're saying, you know, and you totally, like I said before, you don't have to be the Tony Robbins. You don't have to be a salesman with all the latest, catch cries and that type of thing. You can just be yourself and make it work and be successful.
Just in case someone's like, what's the name of that book again? Can you?
The Secret to Selling.
Yeah.
I might just send you guys the e-copy as well.
Yeah. Maybe what I'll do in this podcast is I'll put it on a Google Drive. I hope that's legal. And you can click on this and find it. I mean, look, I'm happy to take the rap if it's about us trying to share knowledge, because surely that's what we're trying to do, right?
You just got to be careful because Ulu's already got him as number one.
No. I'll show you the text. There's no catching. There's no catching. It's up there in the Tony Starks. Like, I said to Ulu, I'll be something different. I'll be the best podcast something. It was funny though. He's like, well, that's not possible. Yeah. So anyway.
I can hear it now.
Yeah.
Hey, but just I think I love the way that you kind of summed it up around the skills, and that the biggest thing for you was that you can be yourself. You don't have to be others that you're not, and obviously your background. You've been sitting on these skills forever, and it took just something like a book or a chat to find out that you've always sat on these skills. It just helped break things down for you a bit more, but. And I agree, with sales. I'm not a salesperson, but I found that people have collaborated because I could bring some solutions for some of the issues that they were having. And if you're looking at sales, you see sales as something, for corporates and, people make money, but ultimately you're helping to solve people's problems, and that simply broken down and getting people just to leverage the skills that they've already got, that they've acquired from, and I always use the example of being able to, make $20, $30 a day, Tangaroa College at the tuck shop because I'm offering services to different people, we laugh at it, you probably won't condone some of those services that we offered, but people had certain skills. Everybody have different skills, and you don't have to be somebody else to be able to, make a living out of using those skills by solving other people's problems. And that's why I guess a lot of the work that I did in the police focused a lot on our survivors of trauma, survivors of domestic violence, gang kids, because I look at their potential. I mean, if these guys can get 200 other gang kids together. They've obviously got some sort of sales skills, and imagine if they just had proper mentors, coaches, people that provide pastoral care, they can actually turn those skills into, a career. And I think going back again, when you broke down the differences between those who can get into their first home compared to others, it comes down to that, being able to have financial literacy, that awareness, and not being afraid to ask for help. And I totally agree. If we can do a bit more in that space to prepare our people and make them realize that you don't have to do things on your own. There are people that are specialists in that in those fields. And some people, there are some organisations out there that provide free advice. People don't really know about Citizens Advice Bureau, but they provide a lot of legal free legal advice in the community, help connect you with a whole heap of resources. But definitely, when it comes to sales, without even being a salesperson, I've realised that people do pay for the skill of solving their problems, and I totally agree.
Well, also it just became kind of clear that if I have a look at my European side, that's a gang too, but it's a gang of homeowners, isn't it? So we might as well say, well, we're all going to be part of a gang. Let's just be part of this gang. And I think it's I'd like to think that it's within these chats that someone's sitting there letting it seep in, as we are too. We're like, oh man, this is possible. As long as we keep that dialogue going, the pathways will be revealed. And maybe some of the connections become clear. So I think it's really interesting, and I guess, Bob, just really thankful that you are willing to go on that journey and share a bit more. I have to ask, can you give some kind of honest thoughts around, let's say you have all your I's dotted and T's crossed. Is it even possible to buy a home in Aotearoa? It's
in Auckland.
Well, it's like, seems to be so much the value and stuff like that going up.
I mean, yes, there is a lot of talk in the media around the median house prices have increased and gone up ridiculously, and there is some truth to that. But in saying that as well, there's always a way. There's always a way to be able to put together an application or a case, whether that be the teenager who's been working 5 or 6 years and built up some Kiwi saver for a deposit, whether it's them on their own or whether it's doubling up with mum and dad using their savings or deposit or whatever else, or whether it's purchasing with other family members as well. What I help out a lot with a lot of our PI families is putting applications together. So just letting them know that, the more incomes or more applicants on it, then the more chance, more favorable. You may look to the bank as well. So to answer that question, yeah, it may be expensive, but it's not impossible, as long as you're asking the question as a family person. And that's the question I'd like to put to our people as well is to actually ask the question. Go out there and seek and knock on the doors, ask the people around you, or speak to someone in your bank, or speak to a mortgage advisor. There are lots out there who prepared to sit down and go through a plan. And if it's not today or this year, then now the good ones will table a plan for you over the next 2 years or a year and a half in order to achieve that goal. But yeah, that's, if there's a message I'd like to put out to our people who are aspiring home owners, is to ask the question. Don't rest and don't think that it's out of your reach, because you don't know until you ask and you try and you get your financial well-being check, and then take the steps to ask, what can I do next? What habits can I change, or what areas of focus can I focus my finances on? Because there's always options, there's always an answer, but it's just taking that first step.
That's awesome.
We've got the upcoming Auckland Council mayoral elections coming up, and the general elections coming up around the corner too. Do any of those elections have any swing or influence over some of your potential clients and the market in any way?
I would have to say, as far as I'm aware, there's only one Pacific candidate, and I would think that I really relate to that candidate's story as well, and I think that a lot of our people gravitate towards that. But I think that some of the causes that he's trying to champion as well is home ownership amongst our PI people, and not just our PI people, but for people in general. So I think it would be a good thing, if those causes came to the forefront. But yeah, it's a big topic. A lot that I don't know too much about. But yeah, I think that if it would be positive if Mr. Collins was to be voted into office for our people in that sense.
Well, he sat in that chair where you are and talked to us in this exact way, and talked about why come up from a train to come to Auckland, and that's not appropriate.
Yeah.
And I think it's really kind of meaningful that we've established there's a problem, and he'll go after a long-term solution, but there's other short-term solutions, which is exactly what we're talking about now. Ask the question. Team up as a group. We do it all the time. We're just not doing it in that area and I think everyone thinks it's an individual journey, but it's not. And I guess, I kind of think like it's really hopeful, and it's an interesting time to be hopeful. There's the pandemic, there's the gas prices, there's wars, and everyone's idea of housing is it's out of my reach, but it's also within your reach, right, Bob?
And just one thing to add as well is that we get clients all the time who successful in their purchases, but just the common theme is that I never thought this would be possible. You hear it a lot. I never thought it would be possible on a 5% deposit. But like I said, there are options out there. There are avenues, but we're never going to know them if we don't ask a question and go knocking on the right doors.
I just want to revisit a comment you made earlier, which I don't know, which may cause some eyebrows from some of our real strong cultural experts out there. Your comment around the way we're doing things is wrong. Can we just delve back into that? Like, what do you mean by that? Our mindsets? Is it our mindsets with regards to money, or culturally, or what is it about that?
I've got to be really careful here. No, I think what I said was just our priorities, possibly not in the right places. And I say this from experience myself, being a father and a husband and head of our family. My priorities are wrong for a long time now. Whether they're cultural priorities or whether they're non-cultural priorities, but if from my experience, if I didn't have my family as one of the top priorities and everything I'm doing towards the betterment for my family, then something's wrong there, and that was my discovery. And so like I said, whether it's cultural or non-cultural, then the priority needs to shift to family as being a top priority. Sometimes we think, and this is again from my own personal experience, sometimes we think with what we're doing is for our families, but after a period of going round and round in self-discovery, I learned, hang on, are my actions actually prioritizing my family, or is it for other reasons? So when I said that, it was just around that idea, really around questioning. It's one thing to know and think that I've got my priorities right, but are my actions dictating that? Are they supporting that? Without quoting too much.
No. I asked the question because it's something that it keeps coming up in my conversations with family and within my own networks. You know what I mean? I'm a big advocate of that. Pre-migration. I keep talking about that we have to do the theory of a driver license. If I was to use the analogy, we teach the theory of a driver license, so that we can safely navigate from A to B, in terms of the practical side of things. But we don't teach financial literacy and all of that sort of stuff before our people book a ticket to come to Aotearoa, New Zealand. Yeah. And then they come here and it's not like the magazines, or it's not like what they see on TV. There's these things called taxes. There's these things called a driver license, and these things called bills, and rates. So all these little things, and so I totally agree. And it's stuff that I saw, growing up in New Zealand, coming here quite young and never seeing any violence and stuff at home, in Samoa, and then all of a sudden seeing mum and dad stressed out having fights, and it just got all a bit crazy. But it's something that keeps popping up, and I keep having conversations with my own networks, and I don't think it's going to go away too soon. But it is one of those opportunities rather than barriers for people like us and people that are exposed to some of those different ways of doing things. Which takes me to another, picking up from Will, who's Afkasi, got his Baalangi side. How has it been for you? I know you've been working in the corporate space, but how has it been for you, sort of not limiting yourself just with working with your own people? Are there advantages to working with people outside your own demographics, outside of your own community? Are there? What are the pros for that?
Definitely. I think we to survive, we need we need each other. And it definitely provides a lot of colour and richness as well. But I don't think I would be who I am today without the influence of other groups as well. So to answer your question, very, very important to me in the line of work now, dealing with lots of different community groups, different ethnicities, different walks of life as well. And I believe it's just rounded my thinking and my understanding and my knowledge of people as well. So it's really added to who I am as a person and how I've grown up and the upbringing that I've had as well. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Bob, you've been really gracious with your time and your sharing, and it's kind of cool that we get to capture this. Like, in some ways, I think what we're doing is a new voyage into the unknown. It's a digital unknown, and we're having to stand by what we say, and sometimes that means confronting things that we can't turn around and say, what'd you do when you talked about going off the beaten track, and so we thank you for that. We asked the question to every guest just to see what pops into your mind. If we say the statement mental wealth, what does that mean to you as you've kind of processed that term?
Yeah, mental wealth to me would mean being right in mind, right in thinking, also in your priorities as well. For myself, it's a period of time where I wasn't, and there's no coincidence that time in my life, the previous years, everything was just in a rut, and and crazy. But I think I can speak from experience now in that I'm in a much richer space, if you like, from a mental wellness perspective. And that's just because we've got things figured out. We've got a plan and goals in place for our family and our kids, and our careers. So yeah, to answer the question, mental wealth to me means, being right of mind, making good decisions, and taking a step back, when things are not quite what they seem, and taking the time to assess before launching into, the solution or whatever that might be, or taking the next step. Yeah.
Beautiful. We normally end with asking if you could just tell us a little bit about where people can find you and contact you and connect with you. I'm sure there's going to be a wave of people saying, I want to own a home.
Yeah,
Help.
Absolutely.
Ray sent me here.
That's what we're here for. So definitely you can reach me on, my email address might be the easiest, and phone number, bob.lemalu@raywhite.com, or our phone number 022-360-5297. So my time is there for everyone. More than happy to help point you in the right direction. If I can't help you, then I'll find someone who can. But just to help you in your journey, in your situation to owning a home. On the flip side to that, if it's selling a home and you'd like to get the best result, a good outcome, then I can help you with that as well. But like I said, anything to do with real estate, you're not expected to be the expert on it, but I can certainly help to shed some light, open some doors for you to be able to get onto the right pathway for where you want to get to.
Yeah, awesome.
Awesome, Uzo. Bob also sold my sister's house, and she's now set up life in Australia. So thanks for that. But Uzo, thank you very much for your gracious time this morning, sharing, your journey with us and our audience who may be thinking of getting into their first home. I hope that our listeners, our viewers, have picked up some gold nuggets from today and feel a bit more encouraged and inspired that there are options for them, that they're not closed out of the market. Mm-hmm. So thank you again on behalf of the team. We appreciate your time and look forward to watching your journey escalate even more. Also, and being the humble guy, didn't even mention that he's in the top 3% of Ray White sales agents in the world, not just New Zealand. So appreciate your time. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Ray and Will. Thank you so much, and all the best to our listeners out there, and God bless. Thank you.